Francine York was a film and television actress who only ever performed minor roles but always left a big impression. Some of her most memorable were the ones she performed on television in the 60s. This included a stint on Batman as well as a turn on Bewitched. Join Factsverse as we explore how Francine York wore nothing but an apron for her Bewitched scene. Francine York shocked Bewitched's audience. There were numerous memorable episodes of the hit sitcom Bewitched, but one of the most memorable is undeniably the one that featured Francine York. It was the 5th episode of the show's 8th season, and it was called Bewitched, Bothered, and Baldoni. In the episode, Samantha and Darrin visit Rome. Darrin has work to do with his boss Larry Tate, but that doesn't stop him and Samantha from doing a little sightseeing while they're in the venerable Italian city. One of the things they decide to do is visit the National Museum. While there, they get a rude interruption from Samantha's reliably meddlesome mother, Endora. Over the course of Bewitched, Endora had a habit of sticking her nose where it didn't belong. One thing she was always worrying about was whether or not Darrin was as faithful to her daughter as it always seemed he was. In the episode, she's particularly worried about Darrin's fidelity because she feels her daughter is no match for the bombshell Italian women he's being confronted with. Endora is adamant about proving to her daughter that Darrin has wandering eyes, and so she performs a little magic trick. At the National Museum, Endora finds a statue that's meant to depict Venus, the Roman goddess of love. Endora uses her magic to turn the statue to life, and she then sets the now human Venus on Darrin. Darrin may have no intention of being unfaithful to his supernatural wife, but that doesn't stop him from falling under the spell of Venus's otherworldly charm. In human form, she goes by the name Vanessa. After she turns on the charm, Darrin invites the woman back to his and Samantha's villa under the pretense that she can work as their maid. This comes in spite of the fact that the villa in which the couple is staying is fully staffed. Samantha knew Vanessa was up to no good. When Darrin brings Vanessa back to their villa, Samantha can immediately sense there's foul play afoot. She knows Vanessa has something to do with her mother, but isn't sure exactly what. She humors Darrin's wishes to keep Vanessa on as a maid, understanding that whatever magic is messing with her husband's head is beyond his control. However, she does continue to point out all the ways in which Vanessa fails at her maid duties. The most famous scene from Bewitched, Bothered, and Baldoni was the scene where Samantha and Darrin call their new maid Vanessa into the room and she's wearing nothing but an apron. The two are certainly incredibly shocked at the sight, and so is the TV audience. The scene still stands as one of the sultriest moments from Bewitched's run, if not one of the sultriest moments from any TV series of that era. Samantha believes the sight will prove to Darrin that Vanessa isn't cut out to be a maid. Darrin chalks their new maid's strange wardrobe choice up to experience, to which Samantha replies she's, quote, anything but inexperienced. Samantha eventually figures out what's going on between Darrin, Endora, and Vanessa, and she manages to put a stop to the hijinks by the time of the episode's end. Just a few months later, another 8th season Bewitched episode featured a similar plot. The next episode we'll be talking about is the 12th episode, called The 8-Year Itch Witch. Once again, Endora is worried Darrin has wandering eyes when it comes to her daughter. In the episode, the worry stems from Endora finding a bunch of pictures of bikini-clad women in Darrin's business briefcase. Given that Darrin is an advertising executive looking for a sexy new woman to work on a campaign, the presence of the pictures was innocent. Darrin was later seduced by Julie Newmar. In the episode, Darrin is looking for a beautiful model to play the part of a Catwoman for a new advertising campaign involving a tractor company called Tomcat Tractor. Catching wind of the fact that Darrin is looking for a woman with cat-like charms, Endora knows just who to turn to. As a witch, Endora has a feline familiar. This familiar can also happen to transform into a human. The feline is named Ophelia, and none other than Batman's Julie Newmar played her human form in the episode. Julie Newmar played Catwoman on the 1960s Batman series, making this Bewitched episode a perfect crossover between the shows. Ophelia manages to secure the job of being Darrin's new Catwoman without much fuss. However, getting the advertising executive to be unfaithful to his wife ends up being a completely different story. At Endora's behest, Ophelia tries her best to woo Darrin. After she secures herself the gig as Tomcat Tractor's Catwoman, she demands Darrin accompany her on the trip where she'll perform the part. Darrin agrees to go, as it's important that the whole thing go off without a hitch. However, Darrin has no idea that the real reason Ophelia is inviting him is because she wants to seduce him away from his wife. As this is all going on, Darrin is trying his best to make it home from the trip on time so he can have an anniversary dinner with Samantha. Ophelia tries everything she can to keep Darrin from going home, but Samantha ends up catching wind of what's going on. Samantha ends up turning the tables on her mother. The 8th season of Bewitched ended up being its last, and the show was relying pretty heavily on guest stars by the end. Francine York and Julie Newmar were two pretty faces who helped keep audiences tuned in, and Francine's apron didn't hurt. Francine York had an interesting life. Francine York's turn on Bewitched ended up being one of the most memorable roles of her career, but there's more to the actress's story. She was born in Minnesota in 1936. Her family moved to Cleveland while she was still young, and there she became first interested in acting. She made her debut in a production of Cinderella put on at her school. She played one of the evil stepsisters. She performed incredibly well in the role and allegedly told her parents immediately afterwards she wanted to be an actress. When Francine was 12, her family moved back to Minnesota. As a teen, she became increasingly involved in dramatic productions at school. She even wrote and directed her own play during high school. She also performed in a variety of local beauty pageants, increasing her confidence. Francine's success in the beauty pageant circuit led to her securing some work as a model, and this is how she first ended up in California. She arrived in San Francisco, where she secured a gig as a showgirl at a popular nightclub. When she wasn't performing on stage as a showgirl or modeling in front of the camera, she was going to acting lessons. In the early 60s, she appeared in a small film production, Secret File Hollywood. How Francine York wound up on Bewitched. Francine caught her big break when comedic performer Jerry Lewis cast her to appear in the film It's Only Money. Jerry enjoyed Francine's performance in the film so much, he cast her in several more things, including The Nutty Professor. Around the same time, Francine graced the screen alongside Marlon Brando in 1964's Bedtime Story, as well as with Elvis Presley in Tickle Me. In 1973, she appeared in a film called The Doll Squad. The film is considered a cult classic nowadays and stands as her most memorable work on the big screen. Though Francine aimed to be a star on the silver screen, she ended up finding the majority of her success on TV. Besides Batman and Bewitched, other notable series that she showed up on during the height of her career include My Favorite Martian, Burke's Law, Perry Mason, Lost in Space, and Matlock. She also had a pretty big role on Days of Our Lives. She continued working until her passing. In her later years, she appeared on TV series like The King of Queens. She also had a memorable role on the big screen in the new millennium, playing the mother of Nicolas Cage's character in the movie The Family Man. She passed away of cancer in 2017. Now it's time to hear from you. Did you know Francine York appeared almost naked in an episode of Bewitched? Let us know in the comments section below.